have this feeling where like you like something, but you can't explain why because objectively speaking, you know, it's bad? I feel like I have that with some Star Trek episodes. Like, I can't tell you exactly why, but the fact that some of these went through all the stages of production to eventually be aired, and everyone was like, yup, like some of these, like, it had to be done on purpose. They're so bad. Like, Star Trek can be too serious at time, and look, I do talk about the philosophy and the ethics and more serious topics a lot, but Star Trek can also be so silly and ridiculous. So today, I specifically want to talk about the silliest Star Trek episodes of all time, aka the what the fuck did I just watch episodes. Some people might love them, some might hate them, but in a world where the overall feeling of the shows can be very serious, it's good to have these, you know, and wonder what the writers were thinking. Now, I'm only going to be talking about a few episodes in this video, but I have a very long list. The ones that I'm talking about today are just the ones that, when I thought of this concept, immediately came to my mind. I can make a second part and a third part and a fourth. I don't know if I can make any more than that, but I might do in the future, okay? We've got the original series, season 3, episode 6, Spock's Brain. It is considered the worst episode of the series for some people, and to me it's just like, what? Like, it's absurd, and it's also very campy, so listen, I can see why a lot of people might still find enjoyment in it. So, the crew of the Enterprise encounters an ion drive vessel, and an alien woman transports into the Enterprise, making everyone unconscious and proceeding to steal Spock's brain. When they wake up, they realize they can't find Spock, and they eventually find him in sickbay, where they realize that his brain had been removed, but they had kept his body alive on life support. And according to Bones, they've got 24 hours to get it back, or Spock kicks the bucket, essentially. So they need to find his brain. They eventually find an ion trail that leads them to like a pre-industrial planet. So they get there and they find evidence of an underground city, and then they beam down Spock, who has like a device in place of his brain.
What have you done with Spock's brain?
We do not know Spock.
This is Spock.
And it turns out that these people are using Spock's brain as a controller for a computer, and they're using it to run their underground dwelling.
Spock's brain controls.
Anyway, they get Spock's brain back. Now, it is just ridiculous. Like, aliens steal Spock's brain to use it as a computer and run an underground city. And the entire time, Kirk is just going around controlling Spock's body like it's a puppet. And the thing is, they treat this plot and this episode completely seriously. And it's not like the plot couldn't have been executed in a different way and worked, because it could have. But it was like I was saying, it is so bad that it's good. Now, I did consider talking about Trouble with Tribbles, but I think I might keep it to one episode per show. Also because Trouble with Tribbles is unironically and full on seriously a really good episode. If I expand the list later on, maybe I will talk about it. The Next Generation, episode 19 of season 7, called Genesis, makes no sense if you think about it too hard, but honestly, it's also kind of fun. So a test torpedo goes off course, and Data and Picard get on a shuttle to disarm it. And once they're gone, the crew starts acting really strange. Worf is very irritable and hungry to the point that he rips up his bed and starts sleeping on the floor. Troy gets very cold and finds the ship too dry, and she starts having a lot of like salt and water. Barclay is talking really fast, and Riker's having memory problems. And it turns out that the entire crew was having their DNA rewritten, and they are de-evolving into primitive life form. Like, Riker becomes a Neanderthal, Troy's a half amphibian, even Spot, who's Data's cat, turns into like an iguana, and they end up using Nurse Owaga's placental DNA and amniotic fluid to neutralize the threat and reconfigure the crew's DNA. This isn't the typical The Next Generation episode that leaves you wondering about a philosophical issue. This is like a fever dream. And like I said, if you think about it, the reasoning and explanations that they give for it make no sense. Like, evolution doesn't work like that. DNA doesn't work like that, because they de-evolve into the most random ass creatures ever without explanation as to why. Like, it's not like they de-evolved into like primitive human creatures or creatures from, you know, their own planet. I don't even know. I'm trying to think about it, but honestly, I don't even know what to say. It kind of feels like a Halloween episode horror movie fever dream. And then they just reverse it and go back to normal like nothing's happened. But it's honestly ridiculous to the point that, like I said, it's fun to watch. Like, again, it's taking itself 100% serious, and that's what makes it unintentionally crazy. And the next episode that I want to talk about, I think the reason why it's so silly is not just the premise, but more the context. And that's because Deep Space Nine felt like such a serious show, especially compared to previous Star Trek. And then Season 1, Episode 10 happened. And it's titled Move Along Home, and they're hosting an alien race called the Wadi, and they start playing a game called Chula, which is a 4-player game with the goal to move along home. Quark decides to play with them, and the players then get transported into a virtual world. And honestly, they don't even explain the rules. They're just like, you learn as you go. And I would not be able to explain to you what is going on at any point. I even tried to look up if there's any explanation, and like, I think that's the whole point. You're not meant to understand, they don't understand. And it's just really weird. The place that they're transported to is very surreal, almost like a board game, but also with pieces from a play. And they encounter these riddles and test and random alien performances, and the crew have to step on these squares and chant Alamarain, count to 4.
Alamarain, count to 4. Alamarain,
Count to 4. Alamarain, then 3 more. Alamarain, if you can see.
I can't even explain it properly. Like I said, maybe it's just a what the fuck did I just watch because I didn't get it. But it turns out to not be just a game, but a judgment system. And eventually the crew completes it and everything goes back to normal like nothing ever happened. Again, they're taking itself 100% serious while also being so absurd. Like, the characters are confused, the audience is confused, and I think maybe the set design adds to it. Like, it just doesn't look great, and it just kind of gives it that campy vibe that just makes it go from like bad to just goofy. The next is Star Trek Voyager, Season 6, Episode 5, Alice. It's one where the premise doesn't sound like it would fit in this list. Like, it sounds like it can be executed very well, but then the plot full on turns into such a silly concept that just works for some reason, but like it doesn't at the same time. So let's recap it. So picture this. They get to an interstellar junkyard where Paris finds a shuttle he notices has an optronic weapons array and a neurogenic interface, which basically means that your brain can communicate directly with the computer. So it reacts instantly to what you want it to do.
She's beautiful. Just an old rust bucket. What, are you kidding? Look at those lines. It's a work of art. That ship wasn't assembled, it was sculpted. I think I'm in love.
And once he gets it, he gets told all trades are final. I wonder what that means. Anyway, so it gets to his quarters and then he hears a woman talking to him. He follows the voice, and when he gets to the shuttle bay, the voice says, "It's me, Alice." So he starts calling the shuttle Alice, and while he's fixing it, the ship responds to him and starts getting jealous when he invites Torres to the ship, giving her a mild shock as she leaves. And then Alice starts trying to convince him to complete her and leave Voyager with her. He's like, "No, I can't do that," but then she convinces him anyway to steal power cells in a data relay, and she's like, "You belong with me." Once they realize that the power cells have gone missing, Torres goes to shuttle bay to confront Paris, and then Alice tries to kill her. And when he's in the shuttle, it starts, well, I don't know if I should call the shuttle it or she, but anyway, it starts to wrap him in wires and telling Paris that he's becoming part of her and he can't resist, and then they save him in the end. So this shuttle is basically seducing him and becoming obsessed with him, and it goes from like zero to clingy girlfriend that you had in your teens like really quickly. Like, it sounds like it's going to be like an AI trying to manipulate a crew member episode, but then it just comes across as like shuttle develops a toxic romantic relationship with Paris, and the shuttle full on like feels like it has feelings, actually just feels like a romance. It's shown to us, worded as like a romance, and it escalates just too fast. And we also don't get any reasoning behind Alice's behaviors at all, so it just leaves you wondering, but also like, okay, fair enough, I guess. And the crew is also just kind of allowing this to happen. They let it go on for a bit too long, so it's weird that they don't find it as strange initially as it actually is. Again, just another example of a premise that's just so silly, but just taking itself 100% serious, because while Janeway and the rest of the crew eventually react and are being serious discussing engineering and ethical dilemmas and AI, the shuttle is behaving like a jealous girlfriend. So I think the quick tone shift between scenes is what makes it also funny for me. And I do want to end this by talking about something that I noticed, and that is that with the new Star Trek series, when they had silly episodes, they didn't hit the mark quite like they did with the old series, because Star Trek can get so silly, but it works and it's funny because they were trying to take themselves seriously. But with New Trek, it's like they're actually trying to replicate that on purpose, and it doesn't hit the same where they're trying to be camp and funny. I always say I love Strange New Worlds, but Even the musical episode or the 4.5 Vulcans episode, like they don't hit the mark. Or the one where T'Pring and Spock switch bodies, like they're fun and I like them for what they were, but they will never have that vibe of the old Star Trek being funny and campy. I want to quote Notes on Camp, Susan Sontag, and she said, "In naive or pure camp, the essential elements is the seriousness that fails. Of course, not all seriousness that fails can be redeemed as camp, only that which has the proper mixture of exaggerated, the fantastic, the passionate, and the naive." And she also said, "Camp, which numbs itself to be camp, is usually less satisfying," which is why I think the episodes in the new Star Trek don't work quite as well, because they are trying to be camp and you can't force it. So when it's trying hard to be silly on purpose, it cannot reach the so bad that it's good state, which isn't necessarily a bad thing either. It's just a good reminder that not all old Star Trek episodes were good, and new Star Trek gets a lot of criticism, but there's still a lot of people who consider these good and fun, even though they are realistically not, because of the nostalgia or because they can cross that line of ridiculousness where it leaves you wondering if it had to be on purpose. If you have any other episodes you would like to discuss, or any other episodes that you feel like fit the theme, just let me know in the comments, or what you thought about the episodes that I listed, if you find them funny, if you think they're silly, or if you hated them. Again, as always, don't yuck someone else's yum, and don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe. Okay, bye.